something for sure, okay? Right, Colin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hold out for something expensive. Okay. So, how many of you use McDSP plugins? We're being honest. It's okay. Okay. How many of you use other plugins than McDSP plugins? Who didn't hold their hand up either time? Okay, because if you did, you could leave now. Good Lord. That's why we're here. Okay. I've been with Colin, how many years now? 20 years. He was the first plugin, his plugins were the first I used that made me think this digital revolution is going to work. And his products, all of us that do this for a living will tell you we have to use them. It's not because we necessarily want to, but they're just amazing and they work. They don't look like a Neve, they don't look like a this, they don't look like a that. But if you want to sound like everybody else, go ahead and use those. Ask my assistants, not him because he's only been with me a year, but ask Dylan, Manny, Jason, Sylvia Massey, who am I forgetting? Anyway, there's about 20 of them out there. They're all millionaires. Ask any of them if they saw me use a Neve or a Pultec, and they'll tell you no, because when I moved to LA in 1990, I was an okay engineer, but I wasn't a great engineer, and I wanted to be a great engineer. Now, how do you become a great engineer? Do you try to catch Manny American, who in my opinion could be the best engineer out there right now? You want to catch Jason Joshua, who could be the greatest engineer out there right now? You ain't gonna catch those guys. They got a 30 fucking year head start on you. Be real. Your mama loves your work. Your boyfriend loves your work. Your girlfriend loves your work. But nobody's paying you. If you think you're the shit, look at your bank account. You ain't shit. Look at my bank account. I'm shit. Now, if you want to be the shit, and you're starting out, I started out when everybody that was better than me was wet, I was dry. When everybody was dry, I was wet. I had 11 number one records my first year in LA because I didn't sound like anything. I didn't put anything on my stereo bus because everybody did. I didn't use Neves, Pultecs, APIs. I used a lot of gear that I paid $150 for. Remember, Colin? And I used McDSP because it was new, and it was great, and it was musical, and it allowed me to do the things I wanted to do. And if you're familiar with my record from that time period, and I pray to God you're not, I also didn't like my drums on tape. I thought it sounded mushy. So go look up the remix. Make sure you get the remix to Thought It Was Me, Belle Biv DeVoe. What I did back then is I bought 3 or 4 drum machines of every model. So I had 4 SP1200s, 4 MPC 60s, and when somebody would bring me a session, I'd say, bring your disc for your drum machine. And the reason I had so many is because you only had 8 outs, so I'd have to have a lot of outputs for all of the parts they had. And so Thought It Was Me, number one record. And all the records I made until around 2003 maybe. My drums never came off tape. My drums either came off of a 4-AD F16 or one of those 8 drum machines. And so I'd run the drum machines live into the console, and then they'd go straight to my 2-track. And that's the first time they ever hit tape. And I tell you, nobody samples those sounds, more sounds, those sounds. Anyway, back to subject and stop bragging. So, why would I use a McDSP plugin and when? Okay, I use other plugins. Colin, I got written approval. I try to use everything in the book. Leandro, pay attention. How like F2? Have we ever not used it on something? Have we ever used less than 5 times on something? Less than 10? Less than 15? A lot. We use that plugin on everything. Serial, sexual positions that are invented, everything. It's like, it's just so musical, and I talked to Colin about it, and I know how it works, and I'm still surprised how it works. And one of the things I want you to experiment with it, it's better. Dave, what's up? I'm glad you came in late. I just been telling him a bunch of lies. Now I can't lie anymore. That's one of my favorite mixers, guys. Give Dave Rideau a big hand. No. Every time I see him on a record that I'm on, I go, oh shit. Bad boy right there. We once did a session at Enterprise. It was me, Dave Reitzes, Dave Rideau, and I think Dave Way was there. It was an all Dave building. I think it was all everybody, but and all three of those guys were better than me. So I was just learning. I got good about 97, 98. Okay. See you, Dave. Love you, buddy. So it looks simple, and I think there's a metaphorical lesson about that plugin, so I'm going to spend a second on it. Leandro, let me know when I have about 20 minutes left. Everybody understands how a filter works, right? And you understand the numbers 6, 12, 18, 24. Who doesn't understand that? We're friends. You can admit if you don't understand. I'll spend time with you. I'll come to your house. Okay. So I use the 6 dB when I want it to have a little less. I use it almost in the same way I might use a shelf filter. And then I select the frequency. But Colin, help me here. Come here, buddy. So,
open the screen for you?
Watch it, Colin. It's my job to be funny.
All right.
The musicality of a filter is the point at which you select the frequency. So, if you select, say, 100 cycles, the way a filter reacts at that 100 cycles determines the musicality. Now, this is where I need your help. Sometimes at that point, at 100, you can get in the analog world what they call a resonance. Comprende?
Yep.
And that resonance can look like this. I'm gonna try and draw it backwards. So here's the curve. Now, right here where it starts to get flat or straight or horizontal, that's the frequency. Now, a lot of analog EQs, because of certain time constants in the electronics, which Colin and I won't go into, will give you this. And that's what we like about those filters. Now, what Colin does is he gives you an extra knob, and that knob affects the crossover rate a lot like an analog would. And we don't give a fuck about analog. We want to sound musical. Analog's analog, digital's digital, but if it ain't musical, throw it in the trash. We're earning money. So when you what do you call that fader?
The resonance?
The resonance control. When you turn it up, you'll get this. Instead of this, you'll get. Oh, he's going to do it for you. Damn, you built the plug-in and it takes you that long? Exaggerate it. Okay, now see, we're crossing over at about, what, 1900? I can't read it. Okay, now see the resonance that's right there at 1900? Turn it down, Colin. Turn it up, Colin. Down, up, down. Now, if he had been using faders, he could have done that quicker instead of a knob. Now that's very important, very, very, very important. Now, as you get a steeper, help me if I say something wrong, as you get a steeper curve, like say you're using 24 dB per octave, then your imagination will tell you that resonance is less important, right, Colin?
You might.
Show me the resonance at 24. Oh, okay, I said it backwards. Show me it at 6.
Okay, I take it away.
6 is where it's less important. Thanks, Colin.
Yep.
So Now you can do the same thing on the high end and the bottom end. Now, let's say you're working on a bass. I'm spending a lot of time on this plugin because it's deceptively, massively musical and useful. So let's say your bass is interfering with your kick drum at about 40 cycles. So you roll it off at 50, the bass. But you're saying, golly, I sound like a Karen Carpenter record. So now you boost the resonance, and it doesn't boost the frequency that's bothering you, it boosts the frequency next to it, and now your bass and your guitar and your kick are happy together. They're not fighting. They're think of one as the husband, one as the wife, and there's no marital conflict at all. They're sexually content at that point. So it's very important to understand that resonance. That's where the money is in a filter. That's where the money is in a filter. Okay, by yourself. Right? This cat's the most musical cat you'll ever meet. Keyboard player. His music's amazing. He comes from a musical family. His dad's a friend of mine. His dad's an aerospace engineer. Coolest guy on earth. Worked on the Blackbird project, the SR-71.
Yep.
And for a while he would send me schematics of gear that had some sort of artistic circuit design in it. Just a great man, his dad. And he comes from that. Okay, so are we can we move on? We're there, right? Okay, now why do I use P6? Everybody knows what P6 is. It's a 6-band parametric equalizer. Now, who here has mastered the parametric equalizer? Damn, I thought you had. I said, who here is part of Team Rainbow? Okay. The parametric is one of the most dangerous tools ever invented for us, but it's probably the single most useful tool that changed music. Prior to the parametric, you'd use an API 550, and who can name me the mid-range EQ points on a 550? I'll start you off. Maybe I can't. I know the one that's important, the 1.5. My point is, I shouldn't have asked that question, but I'm heavily medicated and have an excuse. I have medical reasons. You only get fixed equalizers, and they're very amazingly musical, and they get it right a lot of times. If you look at a Neve, same thing. Rupert Neve is a genius, can't deny that. When he made that EQ, those were EQ points that tended to be points that needed to be boosted or cut. But nowadays, we work differently. We work, back then they would work in half octave jumps. Now we work in like 100-cent jumps, you know? And so the parametric, what I like to do with the P6 is it's incredibly transparent. The concept that a piece of analog gear imparts something you need is bullshit. When you want that, it's great. But don't ever let your equipment make sonic decisions for you. You're an engineer. Make the fucking decision yourself. And you need the tools that allow you to make the decision of when you want to sound like your mix is going through a pillow and when you don't. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you like things to have a spot in the mix that's a little ephemeral, nebulous, a little, I don't know how to describe it. When analog works, you can't touch it. But when it doesn't, I once got, at the time, the most successful and songwriter of the decade. I used to mix for him. I'm not going to name his name because I'm going to slam his engineer. He gave me 96 tracks of background vocals recorded through a Neve 1073, which is one of my favorite pieces of gear ever made. But one of them. So if you get all that analog shit 96 times, can you imagine whatever that was that it imparted? I couldn't mix it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it out. I couldn't. So basically I took about 24 tracks and worked on those, and when he heard it, he thought it was all 96 because the clarity was there and the backgrounds. What do you want a background to do? You don't want it to be the lead. You want to have it complement the lead and find a spot in it to set the lead so they don't compete. So the P6 and the E6 allow me to do that. Now I use a P6 whenever I need to do some surgery, whenever I need to do some broadband enhancement. So a lot of times, there's no rules that fit everything. A lot of times I like a narrow band for surgical reasons when I cut, and I like a broader band for musical reasons when I boost, okay? Boosting too narrow can get you in trouble, and if you're handing that trouble to me to mix it, you're gonna hear from me because you're making my life harder. So it's probably, now he'll deny this, but it's probably one of the best plugins on earth at efficient use of your CPU.
That's fair.
Why? Because he wrote the damn program. I mean, between Colin and Steve Massey, that's the original Pro Tools, and he's still involved with Pro Tools, probably more on a consulting basis right now. Or,
So listen to me.
is it an NDA?
You're not confirming deny anything.
Okay, but for a number of years, whenever Pro Tools did an update, they came to Colin to make everything work right, and he updated the plugins. And back in the day, on one plugin, will I get you fired if I talk about the?
Go for it.
Okay, on one of the plugins, there was a secret code, and you could play Pong on the plugin, and only Colin and his friends knew about it. That's how deep inside the bowels of Avid he is. So I made the mistake of thinking that because I couldn't pull a version of the plugin that just had one band on it, that I was wasting CPU usage, but Colin educated me and said, no, his plugin is so efficient, you can leave them all on and have no negligible CPU usage. I forgot to ask you, if I use 1,000 of them on a session and I leave all 6 on, is that better than just leaving the ones on I need?
It's the same.
No, it's not. It can't be. I know math.
Hold on. I guess Dave's asking me the tricky questions. So like the analog gear, if you have like an EQ and it has like a push component, and a cut component, that push and that pull, if you will, they have to balance each other out. So when you take at least a McDSP equalizer, even if you have the gain set like it's 0 dB, there's still a push component and a pull component acting together. So the audio goes through it, and maybe there's no frequency response change, but it's still going through those feedback loops and feed forward loops of the EQ, and then doing whatever it's doing, like real analog gear. So sometimes people have said, oh, that sounds kind of better. And I'm like, you're not doing anything. Yeah, but listen to this. And they'll
I'm
put
one of those people.
Yeah, but that's why, like Dave likes our products, or how McDSP's been around for 18 years.
I love his products.
We did stuff like that because I figured that, well, people who are coming in from the analog world or from an SSL or whatever, they come to the plugin, they want it to work the same way. And it was very gratifying to, like, the first time I met Dave at Enterprise, and you were working with, I think, Brian McKnight, and it was pretty cool for me. But to sort of sit there and watch them create stuff, but they had all those subtle things I thought no one would care about or notice. He'd already picked up on all of them, and then he only had the plugin for just a little while, and I was like, oh, well, this is really good, so I should keep doing it this way so that the people at the top will recognize it and it'll sort of trickle down. And I guess when Dave gives you all these golden nuggets of mixing tips and tricks, it's the same kind of thing. All that attention to detail, you think, no one's going to notice that. But then you solve those kind of problems, and then lo and behold, then you're the poop stuff, what he said. Wow, okay. I'll be quiet now.
I can't work. I can't work. What's up, buddy?
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Clearmountain.
Let me explain something to you. Come here, Bob.
Here you go.
Bob is a friend. And when I first started, I don't want to embarrass Bob, but when I first started engineering, if I couldn't be Bob Clearmountain, Hugh Padgham, or Steve Lillywhite, I just I was a crappy engineer. I'd been engineering a year or two, and Bob said he used NS10s, so I went and bought some NS10s. And Bob did not say this, but we all thought you said it. He used a piece of toilet paper over the tweeter to make it balanced. I'm gonna set the record straight. Did you really do that?
Well, it wasn't toilet paper.
What was it?
It was, well, we had
It
these
was
things in
Charmin.
the studio. No, it was chem wipes. You're like a professional, it's like a lintless cloth that we used to use to clean the heads on the Studers and the,
Wow.
you know?
But,
But yeah, because
I wanted
they
to
were
be
too bright.
Bob. I wanted to be Bob so bad.
But I never told you to use, I never told anyone else to use them. Let's get that straight, okay?
Yeah,
Somebody asked me, I said,
he
oh, this is
never
what I
did.
do.
For those of you that are younger and don't know Bob, Bob was probably the first superstar mixer and made the career acceptable for all of us. I mean, there were predecessors, but Bob is the one that popularized it, and his records didn't sound like anybody else's when you heard them. They had a musicality, and they jumped out at you. Bob wasn't afraid to hurt you, and he wasn't afraid to be subtle. He I don't know how to describe it, but I heard his records, and I didn't know whether to shit or go blind. Those were my only two options at the time. And if he said it in a magazine, I'd never met the man until a few years ago, I did it. And one time he said that, I think he said you always take 300 or 400 out of your kick drums. Somewhere, somebody told me that you did that. So I proceeded to take 300 or 400 out of everything, because if Bob said it works for kick drums, I'm just starting out. Man, I got fired from so many projects thanks to Bob Clearmountain. But the point is, you'll never be Bob Clearmountain. But he was my inspiration, along with Steve and
You mentioned Hugh Padgham, very good friend
Hugh
of mine.
Padgham, yeah, my gosh. I bought a pair of AR-18Ds because of him. Remember those? And I still have them. They don't work. But find somebody that gives you inspiration. That when you're tired and you're going through a lot of the valleys that we all go through, think about that person and stay awake longer. Work harder. I'm gonna ask Bob a question. When I first came out to LA, I was not the best mixer by far, but nobody outworked me. I had assistants quit every month because I wouldn't go home. I was going to get good by doing it more and more and more and more and more, and surprisingly enough, I improved. And if you want to compete at his level, he's a hard-working man. You know, now he's got success now and doesn't have to work. But in the early days, if you wanted to get at the top, and it's still applicable now, you just got to outwork your competition. Who here is lazy? You better be good, because, boy, I know we're kidding. But, Bob, I know you got things to do, my friend. How's wifey?
Good.
The new
Right next door.
symphony is amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
It's pretty beautiful, isn't it?
It
Yeah,
really is.
It is.
You want to say something about it? Guys, when you get a chance, I'll say it. Run over to the Apogee booth.
Right next door.
Right next door. And I'll give you
Some great.
Come here,
things
Leandro.
over there.
This is my assistant. Every day he asks me if can I get him a deal on one of the new Apogees. Can I get him a deal? He can't afford it right now, Bob, but because I don't pay him anything.
I can't afford
but I'm gonna send him over to you when he gets the money.
Because I want to upgrade all my old symphonies to the new ones just because they look cool. And I can't really afford that.
A word of inspiration.
You know, and it's my wife's company, by the way, and
Yeah.
and she Betty Bennett, and she yeah, I get the invoice. It's so funny, you know, because I remember the first 88,000 that I got. You know, I get this invoice, and it's full retail list price. I go, honey, what's the deal here? She goes, you can afford it. All right, fair enough.
Fair enough. Bob, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Sorry
sure.
to put you on the spot.
So I didn't mean to
That's all
take
right.
over
I owe
your...
you one, so. All right.
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, hero. The first time I heard a snare, and I know snares aren't everything about music, but for about 5. Oh man, what's up, SImon? Come here, man. This guy's the greatest musician. He's played with Clapton. We did Avatar together. The movie. One of the great composers. I got to run, but I just want to say hello, my friend. I knew you were in town. Good to see you.
Wait, say hi.
Can you give them an inspirational moment? Oh, wait a minute. Tell them how much gear you used on Titanic.
2 tons.
How much gear did you use on Avatar?
1 Mac Pro.
Okay, let me hear everybody say, fuck. 1, 2, 3. That's amazing, man.
It is. Changes everything.
So you gonna call me?
Yeah.
Okay, I got proof. All right, love you, buddy. On the first time I heard, I can't remember if it was, I can't remember what album. It could have been a Springsteen album, and I heard that snare, and I was like, I want to be able to do that. If I can do that, my life will be complete. And I sampled it. But guys, I've got to mention my old buddy, the E6. We've got the F2, the P6, the F6, and my new best friend, the AE400. They're amazing tools. The AE400 is the greatest equalizer ever because it has all of the attributes of its parents, but you can compress each channel. So that's a little different than a multi-band compressor. And the top end on it, from about 8K up, is just like smooth as a baby's butt. It's just really nice. And Leandro and I use it sometimes as a parallel compression chain on the bass, because you don't have to lower the level of the entire bass. You can just lower the level of the frequencies you don't want. Now, the money on the E6 is in that top shelf band, and you get some little adjustments to make. Get familiar with those adjustments, because that's where the musicality is again. And all of those 3 plugins, while they come from the same creative mind, they have distinct and unique uses. So repeat after me. P6, E6, F2, AE400, Dave is wonderful, Leandro's wonderful, Colin is the best, and Derek's the second best. And I promise, or else may my pet die a horrible death, that I will purchase a McDSP product within the next year. I promise. Guys, I hate to do this. I've got to go embarrass Avid for a little bit, like I did Colin, and stay here, and Colin's going to handle, and Derek are going to give you some products. Free product.